where the grass is green, Kona. Now the air is clean. Breakfast with Bob.
Poncho Man! Welcome to day 3. Breakfast with Bob. We're brought to you by HOKA on a Polar Halo Neuroscience Velofix. Today's plan, Normatec Four Seasons Resort Hualalai, Triathlete Magazine, and we are at beautiful Huggo's on the Rocks. I don't think it gets much better than this. Our next guest, believe it or not, this will be his 35th time in a row racing here in Kona. Give it up for Mr. Ken Glah. Not Kenny. Not Kenny. Your mom beat me up a few times on that.
She'll come back and hit you, boy.
She will. Mom will come back. How you doing, Ken?
I'm good.
What was your first year racing?
First year racing here was 84. First year doing a tri was 82.
And what got you into tri to begin with?
Yeah, just got talked into it. I mean, I looked at it when I was in high school, thought it was pretty cool, but I did some bicycle camping, so long trips.
Yeah.
And came back from one of them and did a charity ride, and guys like, oh, you're a runner, you should do this race I'm doing. And so it was a 1.5 mile swim, 60-mile bike, and 15-mile run.
Yes. And
first time I had 3 weeks to learn how to swim, so I jumped in the pool, swam 25 meters, and nearly died. And I was fit. I was real fit. I was riding 700 miles just 2 weeks before.
But you realize that swimming's not a fitness.
It's all technique. Yeah,
all
yeah.
technique.
When the 6-year-old girls are going flying by you, you know you
better figure it out.
Yeah.
And so how'd you do in that first triathlon?
It was fun. I got out of water, way back and just passed people all day long, so that was a good time.
You like that?
Yeah, it was my first couple years of doing triathlons were like that. And then once I learned how to swim, then I started having people pass me. That wasn't as much fun.
So your first time here, it's not like back then you had to qualify. You send your dollars in, you're in, right?
Yeah, the first couple years, I guess so, yeah. And then it wasn't soon after that you had to qualify, but I mean there was qualifying races everywhere. Yeah. Olympic distance races, even in
Chicago. It was Olympic distance. St. Anthony's. They were qualifiers for Kona.
Yeah, it was different. It was different back then.
Back then, if you were an event director and you paid Ironman money, you were a qualifier. We didn't care what your distance was, which is fine. Yeah. It was great. What do you remember about your first time here?
Not using sunscreen. That's what I remember.
Well, you've got complexion, so it's not a problem.
I thought it would block my pores, and I wouldn't be able to sweat properly. So I was training in Penn State, so I was already in tights and long sleeves. So I had a week here before the race, and then race day I just fried.
You're like just a red tomato.
Yeah, so I once again got out of the water about 60th or so, which I was real happy with, and passed people all day. The only guy that went by me, I heard this noise coming up behind me, and it was John Howard. Yeah. And then
Olympic three-time Olympic cyclist. Yeah,
and winner
Ironman
here.
Champion. Yeah.
So it was good until mile 12. I think I stayed in 9th place until then, and then I wound up around 30th at 17 miles and 240th or something at the finish.
You've had a number of top 10s here. What do you look at as your best race here as a pro?
Probably the year I was 5th in 95. I just had a good, consistent race throughout. Had a strong run finally. Even though that was my background, I'd never really had good runs here, I think, just because of the heat.
Right.
Yeah.
And how many years did you race as a pro?
About 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry, 20 years.
20 years. They all blend
20
together.
years, yeah.
20 years of pro.
I think my last year was 2004, but whatever my last year racing pro was, I shouldn't have been racing pro. I was already working way too much to be training enough.
You're one of those guys who made a career out of the sport. You do your endurance sports travel.
Yep.
Talk a little about when did that come about?
Started working it in 2001 for the first event, which was 2002 Brazil.
Right. Yeah. And then now that's your full-time gig.
Yeah, it was really serious. The first couple years I just had a few races, and then I had about 7 or 8 years where there was just myself and one other person working full-time. And I was, putting in a lot of 80 to 100-hour weeks and stuff, craziness. But then
and still racing.
Yes. So I mean, here I don't think I've ever been in the top 10 in my age group. So I mean, I went from being pro to, getting my butt kicked in my age group by a lot of people. Yeah.
And I'm guessing you probably train a lot less than most of the people who are here.
Yeah, I usually get, I'll get blocks of 2 or 3 weeks when I can train, and I'll go 3 or 4 weeks with almost nothing when I'm on the road, at races.
How many events are you going to with endurance sports travel?
We had gotten up into like the mid-20s, and I personally was going to about 17 or 18. We're now back down to less than 15, and I go to most of them.
You go to most of those races. Yeah. What's your favorite place?
Favorite overall is Pucón, Chile.
Oh.
And then favorite Ironman distance race would be Ironman New Zealand. Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Still a nice small race. They usually have about 1,200 people, so if you draft, you get nailed. It's real easy to see who's drafting on purpose, and they don't put up with it. So it's good.
Does it, in terms of, is it getting harder and harder to get here in terms of qualifying?
Yes. I mean, well, this year I was racing 55, 59, even though I'm 54. Because I turned 55 at the end. So this year was a little easier just because I had the age advantage.
Right.
When I was racing it the last 2 years of in the 50 to 54 age group, it was tough. The 1 year I did get some good solid training in for about 6 weeks, so that was okay. And then one of the other years I only had about 3 weeks, and I just barely squeaked in. So
how long do you want the streak to go?
I don't even think about it.
Really, just 1 year at a time?
Yeah, as long as I'm enjoying it, and yeah.
What's it going to feel like, do you think? I mean, the finish line, you're done it 34 times, 35. Will it feel any different?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a relief to get to the line. There's so much that can happen. Just getting to the starting line, it's a relief.
Yes.
But getting to the finish line, yeah. I mean, once I get off the bike, I know it's all up to me. That chances of having something outside influence affect you on the run's pretty small.
Right.
But on the bike, a lot of stuff can happen. Even in the swim, stuff can happen.
Love it. Hey, Kenny, congrats on everything you're doing, man. Love
you.
to see it. Going for his 35th in a row. Please give it up for Mr. Ken. Don't call me Kenny. Glah.
It will blow your mind. Breakfast with Bob.